Alright, let's do this. This is your quiz review. This is basically a different version of your quiz. If you can handle this, you will be good to go. So we're going to look at a tomato garden that has 42 tomatoes in it and is expected to increase by 10% per day. So to write an equation that represents this situation, we're just going to say y is equal to our initial amount of 42 times 1. This is an increase, so it's plus 0.10 raised to t. That's the generic equation. You don't want to answer anything or substitute anything for t. That's the generic equation. Now, even better is writing it as 42 times 1.1 raised to the t power. Okay? So that's it. Y is equal to 42 times 1.1 raised to the t. That's the equation that represents this situation. So predict how many we're going to have in 8 days. For that, all you need to do is substitute the t with an 8. And use your calculator. So we're just going to take 42 and we're going to multiply that by 1.1. And we're going to raise that to the power of 8. Click enter, and that's going to give us approximately 90 tomatoes. Okay, and that's it. You're just going to use your calculator for that. You need to use your calculator for part C as well, but this one's a little bit different. This is where you're going to need to use a graph to simulate what's happening. So it says, how many days till you have 109? Well, you don't know how to solve this algebraically yet, but you do have a calculator where in Y1 you can type your equation 42 times 1.1 raised to the x power, and in Y2 you would just type 109 because that's how many tomatoes you're looking for, how many days till we have that. So what you're going to do is you're going to press y equals and you're going to fill out the information like you see. So we have 42 times 1.1 raised to the x, and we have 109 in y2. So what we're going to do is we're going to click graph. And then you're not going to see anything. And there's a reason you don't see anything is because you don't have enough window space. This is just going from -10 to 10. So what you do is you click window, and you're going to want to change your X max possibly, so maybe change that to 20 so you have a little bit more room to figure out how many days this is going to take. And then what you're going to need to do though is you're going to need to go to your Y max and change that to something higher than 109. So you can even try at 115. Now when you press graph, you're going to see the graph because you have enough space to see it on your window. So there goes your first Y1 and there goes your Y2. So now to find what that value is, you just have to press second, then the trace button, which is calc, then you press number 5, which is intersect, and you just need to click enter 1, 2, 3 times. And it's going to find that the intersection point is approximately 10 days. So your intersection point would actually, and if I ask you to sketch the graph, all I need to do is see something that looks like this. A little point right there, and you just say 10.006 comma 109, and your answer is 10 days. Alright, that's it. That's how you do exponential growth. This example is exponential decay. So you bought a new car for $30,000 and it is expected to depreciate by 12% per year. So the equation for this would be y is equal to your 30,000 times 1 minus 0.12 raised to t, which looks better if we say y is equal to 30,000 times 0.88 raised to the t. Now the 0.88 represents a decay because it's less than 1. It decayed or depreciated by 12%. So again, what is the value after 5 years? So we're going to go back to our calculator, and this time it's going to be 30,000 times 0.88 raised to the 5th power. So that's all you need to do is type. So you have 30,000 parentheses 0.88, close your parentheses, raised to the fifth power. Click enter, and after 5 years, your car is worth almost half its original value. So $15,831.96. So that's the value after 5 years. Now part C, again, this is where you're going to need to use your calculator to graph. So you already know in a way what this is going to look like, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. I would like you to try using your calculator for part C before you watch me do this, okay? You try it and see if you're setting your windows correctly and all of that fun stuff. So now let's see if you did it correctly. So you got to change your Y1 to your 30,000 times 0.88 raised to the x power, and then in Y2 you're going to need to type something bigger than 5,000, so we'll try 5,500, and then you're going to press graph, and again you're not going to see anything, and I'm hoping you remembered that's because it doesn't fit in your current window. Now the 20 might be fine, but you need to change your Y max to something much higher. And I apologize, Y2 is actually supposed to be the 5,000. I was jumping ahead of myself. And then you press graph, and now everything should show up. There you go. So your graph is going to look a little bit like this because you're starting way up at 30,000, and then here's your line that represents 5,000. Now you're just going to press second, trace, number 5, click enter 3 times, and it'll tell you that it'll be approximately 14.016 years. So when it's that close, we can say that it's going to be approximately 14 years. Now, if that was 14.6, then you definitely want to say 14.6. You don't want to say 15 years. But when you're at something like 14.0, you can just go right ahead and say 14 years until it's worth $5,000. All right, that's exponential decay. Moving on is our money problem. So we're going to start investing money, and then we're going to start gaining interest on it. So we have 2 different formulas to use. One is when it's compounded quarterly or monthly or daily or even just annually. And the other one is continuously. Continuously uses a different formula. So for quarterly, the formula you need is the amount of money is equal to the principal times 1 plus your rate divided by the number of times it's compounded raised to the number of times it's compounded times t. But when you're doing continuously, that's A is equal to P E raised to the RT. So we have 2 different formulas we need, but we're just going to use the calculator for both of them. And your answer should be close. They're not going to be the exact same, but they should be close. So the amount is equal to our initial investment of $10,000 times 1 plus our rate of 4% over the number of times it's going to be compounded. So quarterly would be 4 times per year, raised to the number of times it's compounded per year times 8 years, because that's how many years we want to see. And then we're just going to use our calculator to type that in. So we're just going to say 10,000 parentheses 1 plus new set of parentheses 0.04 divided by 4, close your parentheses for the rate over n, close your parentheses for the 1 plus r over n. Now we're going to raise that to the quantity of 4 times 8. Close your parentheses, click enter, and it looks like at the end of 8 years you are going to have $13,749.41. Not bad. So what would be the difference if we did it continuously? So continuously, it's the same setup. Your amount is equal to your 10,000, but now instead of the 1 plus your rate over n, it's just e raised to the RT. So your 0.04 times 8. So that's what you're going to type in, 10,000 second ln is going to bring you your e 0.04 times 8, close the parentheses, click enter, and you see that we have a very similar number, except for this time it's $13,771.28. So as you can see, they're close. When you do a problem like this, if your numbers are like hugely different, I can pretty much guarantee you that you did something wrong with your calculator for one of them. They should be pretty close. Okay? Last topic for this review video is how to simplify. You're going to have to simplify in the quiz as well, and those rules follow the rules that were in Chapter 7. So when you multiply, you add your exponents. So if you're going to multiply the top first, you're going to end up with 3 times 5 is 15 e to the 7th power over 6 times nothing is still 6, and then we have e negative 2 and 7 would be e to the 5th power. And now we're just going to reduce our fraction here, so that's going to give us 5 halves. But now we have e to the 7th on top, e to the 5th on the bottom, so we're going to subtract, and since we have more on top, there's our more on top. That's it, you're done. And then this last example right here, the cubed root of 27 is 3. The cubed root of e to the 6th is e squared, and that's it. You're done. So you do not have to evaluate these. You just have to simplify them. So on your quiz, you're going to have, I believe, 4 simplify, and the only other question you're going to have to be able to do is analyze an equation that's given to you. So I might give you an equation like this and ask you to state what the time is, state what the initial amount is, maybe state the rate. Remember, 0.88 is a 12% decay. And if I were to do something like this one right here, this is 1.1. So this would have a 1 or a 10% increase or a 10% growth, because it's how much above 1 or how much below 1 it is. And your initial value is the number in front and how long it's being, compounded, or how many years it takes to grow, or it could even be in terms of days. That's your time. And that's it. That's all you really need to know for this quiz. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching this video. If you understand everything, believe me, you are good to go. So this is Longo, and I'm out. See you, bye. And if you haven't clicked stop yet and you are watching this entire video until it stops on its own, I would like you to draw a smiley face next to your name on your quiz. But don't tell everybody about that, because the less people that do it, the more extra credit it will be worth. Therefore, don't go tell all your friends about it, because then you're only hurting your extra credit opportunity. I want to see how many of you actually watched this entire video on your own without having someone tell you to do so. So again, if like every single one of you puts extra credit, the smiley face, then it's going to be worth not that much. However, if only a couple of you do, then it's going to be worth more for you. So don't go tell anybody. All right, I'm done for real this time. See you, bye.